Thank you. Thank you. The reason that I created this podcast is because I want to feel better. So many of the right-wing talk show hosts that I've listened to over the years make me feel worse, more anxious, more fearful, angrier. And I want to feel better, and I want the people who listen to my podcast to feel better after having listened to it than they did at the beginning.
You're friends with Newsom.
Yeah.
We live here, right?
Oh,
we live in California. I was born here. In Oakland, they have Kaiser Hospital, where my pediatrician was. The hospital put out a notice last week, employees are not to leave for lunch. It's too dangerous in downtown Oakland. That's on him. Our homeless problem, I don't want to hear that the homeless problem is intractable. You want to be CEO? It's your problem. It's your desk.
Yeah.
I know you like it, but I just think I can't imagine him having the gall to run to lead this country when he's run this state into the ground. When we just had Governor Brown not that long ago, Oakland was safe. Things were going on. It's not good. It's not. He looks very shiny. But he's not a straight shooter, and he's not willing to do the hard things to make this state better. And that's.
Good morning. It's Tuesday, Trump Tuesday, March the 19th, and this is The True Conservative. Welcome to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there. I'm Ron, your host, and the only true conservative in the United States today. So today, after the Serenity Prayer and the patriotic song of the day, we will have patriotic shorts, motivation, Bishop Barron, Ayn Rand, the 33 Strategies of War, and Donald Trump. All that and more when we get back. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I should not change, the courage to change the things I should, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen.
Come on, boys. Fall in. Raise the colors. High files right. Prepare to march. We're proud soldiers from back home now. We're from the hills, the plains, and the valleys. And under the flag of our country we shall rally. So keep the beat, boys. March along proud and strong. March into battle with a song. Let's hear it, boys. March. March along. 1, 2, 1. The army is gathering from here and from far. Its trumpet is sounding the call for the war. Abe Lincoln's our leader, he's gallant and strong. With gird on our armor and we're marching along. Marching along, we are marching along. Gird on the armor and we're marching along. Abe Lincoln's our leader. are marching along. Gird on the armor and be marching along. Abe Lincoln's our leader, he's gallant and strong. For God and our country we are marching along. For God and our country we are marching along.
Thank you. And now, guns.
This is a bolt-action 600 overkill. So at some point, someone decided that 600 nitro just wasn't enough. So they decided to design the 600 overkill. I'm going to show you just how good I am at bowling. So that is a 16-pound bowling ball that has not had the finger holes drilled. It is a solid ball, and we are going to smack it with a 600 overkill, 900 grain brass solid. Here we go. Well, we turned that bowling ball into a grenade. There is shrapnel everywhere. Right here by this chunk is the brass solid.
How to fire a Mossberg pump action in 60 seconds. This is your safety. Back is safe, forward is fire. Most shotguns don't have a rear sight, only a front bead. To aim, get your eye as low as possible and try to look down the barrel. Whatever that bead is on is what you're aiming for. To load the shotgun, flip it upside down. There's a port, put the shotgun round into the port and push forward. To load your first round, by the trigger guard, there's a button, push that button, it'll allow the action to unlock and cycle your first round in. In between shots, make sure to pull all the way back and push all the way forward to prevent jams. To fire the shotgun, flip it off safe and pull the trigger. If you run out of ammo and need another round with the action locked back, throw a shell in facing forward, pull forward, and you're ready to go.
Everyone knows that the 1903 Springfield rifle fires a 30-06 cartridge, which is named that because it's a 30 caliber cartridge adopted in 1906. Wait, that can't be right. The Springfield was adopted in 1903 and fires a cartridge that wasn't adopted until 3 years later? Well, actually, yes. Most people don't realize that the Springfield was not originally chambered in 30-06. Originally, Springfields were chambered in 30-03, a similar cartridge that had a rounded tip projectile. Shortly after that, the Germans adopted a new pointed tip projectile, often called a Spitzer or Spire point bullet. This pointy projectile had far better ballistic performance, and given that the US had already copied the design of the Springfield from the Germans, it's no surprise that they copied this new pointed bullet as well. So in 1906, the US adopted a new round with a pointed projectile called the 30-06 Springfield, and they rechambered most of the existing Springfields to fire this new round.
This is the revolver they used to develop the .357 Magnum cartridge. What this gun is essentially a .38 special revolver built on a .44 special frame, hence the name .3844. When this gun was first introduced in the 1930s, there were two main variations. You had the heavy-duty model, which was a 4-inch barrel with fixed sights, and you have this model, the Outdoorsman, with a 6-inch barrel and these beautiful pre-war target sights. The reason why Smith & Wesson put a .38 special in such a large revolver was to shoot their new loading of .38 special called the .3844. The case is the exact same as a .38 38 Special, but the 3844 cartridge was loaded to extremely high pressures. In creating the 3844, Smith & Wesson provided a platform for an insane person known as Elmer Keith to create even higher pressure and higher velocity 38 Special loadings. After blowing up enough of these guns, Smith & Wesson and Elmer Keith developed the 357 Magnum cartridge, and Smith & Wesson developed the first handgun chambered in 357 Magnum, known as the registered Magnum. The registered Magnum was basically the exact same gun as this, but it was chambered in the 357 Magnum cartridge.
Hickok 45 here. You might not be aware of it. Well, you might not be aware of anything, but you might not be aware of the fact that Ruger's LC carbine is out now in 45 ACP. Pretty cool. Now, it doesn't come with this Banish 45 suppressor or anything, but it's a very solid carbine in my opinion. I am really enjoying shooting it. In fact, I might shoot some more. 45 ACP. Oh, yeah. Yes, shoots that wonderful 45 ACP cartridge that we all know and love, whether we admit it or not, right? Life is good.
Do you know if you wiggle your finger just right, you could actually make a Glock? I mean, look, there's no switch. But if you wiggle your finger just right, you're able to make it go pretty dang fast. How about that?
My guys called. Not my guys at Beretta. Beretta, hello, stop being my guy. I got the Beretta 1301 M2. One of the things that the Beretta 1301 M2 does differently is they have this lifter gate. Sin City, where the regular 1301 doesn't have the lifter gate. Comes with the Nordic, comes with the A300 grip piece. It also comes with the A300 stock piece back here where you can put a sling, so you've got to get that twisty sling thing in there. It doesn't come with one. Come on, Beretta. We pay a lot of money for these shotguns. Add that $2 sling swivel. The A300 came with this Velcro piece. Neither one of the 1300s did. That sucks. Like, if we pay premium for this one, add all the little nice little things and that make it even better to both of them. It doesn't cost you any money. All right, let's go shoot them.
Mind? If you try to shoot the gun fast, like what? Kembers suck. Jeez.
And that was guns. Thank you. Now the patriotic shorts.
You hear one side of the aisle mocking people that are concerned that our border's wide open because nothing's happened yet. We've had 3 years where there's not been any terrorist attack. Well, let me tell you about war games and simulations. They put these things through a simulation. It shows the probability and the percentage that they're going to have to come out on top. And the simulation says, hey, you got a 65% chance you're going to come out on top against the U.S. So why would they take that time to attack us right now? All they're doing right now is strategy. And then when somebody strong comes in and the shit starts to get cleaned up, that's when it's going to happen.
Ranger training is a challenge. If you are not familiar with it, it's considered some of the most challenging leadership training in the military. And Ranger School in particular uses sleep deprivation, food deprivation, really long movements to physical exhaustion to put a person, bring them to basically the limits of their physical abilities, and then put them in leadership positions. So most everybody who's been through Ranger School will tell you they'll never ever forget how bad it was on them while they were in Ranger School, and I would tell you the same thing.
He was serving as an intelligence staff officer on the morning of January 24th, 1945, near Hussin, France, when German formations converged on their position. He was Lieutenant Garland Connor, and he had been fighting since November of 1942, when the first American forces landed in North Africa. With his battalion at risk of being overrun, Connor volunteered to run straight into the enemy assault in order to get to a position from which he could direct friendly artillery on the advancing German army. He zigged and zagged for 400 yards through an enemy barrage that destroyed everything in its path, unrolling telephone wire to communicate with the command post. For 3 hours, he single-handedly held off the German onslaught. With German forces just 5 yards away, he ordered artillery on his own position to stop them. "Kill me with them if you have to," he barked to his commanders. Garland Connor lived to 79 years old, and in 2017 posthumously received the Medal of Honor.
The U.S. Army Ranger Weapons Squad consists of 9 soldiers, a squad leader, the platoon's senior staff sergeant, 3 gun teams, and a goose team. The gun teams are a team leader, normally a tabbed corporal, and a gunner. They man an M240 Lima, a 7.62 medium machine gun that can be fired from a tripod or bipod. But if mobility is key or they go down to one-man teams, such as when a weapons squad is operating strikers, they can take out the Mark 48, a version of the FN Mini-Me in 7.62. The Goose team is usually a tabbed sergeant and junior enlisted gunner operating the 84mm recoilless rifle. A support by fire will normally initiate with a shot from the Goose, followed by a mad minute with the guns. Other weapons include Mark 27 Glocks for the M240 gunners, and sometimes the short version of the URGI for Goose gunners. Mark 17 DMRs and 7.62 are also available for team leaders.
I'm looking out the door. I'll never forget it. It was sort of looked out into an alley. There was a bird trying to land on this wall by the alley. And every time the bird tried to land on the wall, it's like a pigeon, an RPK would, like that, and it would take off again because of all the gunfire. And at one point I finally said, well, let's see if it's really dialed in on this door. And I kind of tucked my head out the door, and all around the door, just got shot up. And I sort of barreled back into the house. I bumped into a guy named Adam Bonatai, who was the first squad leader from the platoon. And I remember I looked at him and I just said, it's suicide if we go out that way. And he told me later, he said, that was the only time I was scared, when I saw you barrel back into the house and tell me it was suicide.
In March 2003, the American Air Force was done with all the F-22 haters who were repeatedly saying that the F-15 Eagle was sufficient enough to grant the U.S. aerial victories in the skies of the 21st century. The U.S. Air Force decided to deploy 5 F-15 Eagles with aviators who themselves were experienced F-22 pilots against just one F-22 stealth fighter. So what happened next? When all 6 fighter jets landed after the engagement, all the F-22 Raptor haters were speechless. But why? Because all 5 F-15 Eagles did their level best and employed each and every one of their strategies, plus what they could have done to save themselves from the Raptor. Yet one after another, all the F-15s were shot down by the F-22 Raptor. And what could they even do? Because in the entire dogfight, not a single Eagle pilot was able to at least see the F-22 Raptor for once. So, what do you say about this?
He joined the Navy because he wanted 3 square meals a day. His 3 brothers had already joined the Army. He participated in 3 D-Day landings before his 19th birthday. His name was Donald Palmer, and he was assigned to Company B-4 of the 4th Beach Battalion, which was tasked with loading and unloading the ships during amphibious landings, one of the most hazardous jobs of the war. It was during the early hours of the invasion of Gala, Sicily, when out of the corner of his eye he noticed General George Patton jump into the lead tank to lead the battle. "How are we doing, General?" Palmer blurted out. "Good, son," Patton responded. "We lost the spotter plane from the Boise, but we're doing good." "Well, we're ready to die for you, sir." "Make the other poor bastards die for their country," Patton told the startled sailor. Donald Palmer heeded Patton's advice. He survived the war and enjoyed a full life of 92 years. "It was an honor of a lifetime to serve my country," he said shortly before passing away.
Did you know in the TV series SEAL Team, there is a scene where Clay gets shot in the chest while wearing body armor? The bullet does not penetrate his vest, but the impact causes him to lose his breath and collapse. This is not a fictional scenario, but a realistic depiction of a rare but possible complication of blunt force trauma. Blunt force trauma is the damage caused by the force of a blunt object, such as a bullet hitting the body. When body armor stops a bullet, it absorbs most of the kinetic energy, but some of it is still transferred to the body. This can create a shockwave that affects the organs and tissues behind the armor. In some cases, this shockwave can temporarily paralyze the diaphragm, the muscle that controls breathing. To treat this condition, a common technique is to perform a sternum rub, which involves rubbing the knuckles of a clenched fist against the breastbone.
Well, Katie Couric has come out in order to announce something that I know will shock all of us. Turns out she's a little bit more liberal, and she actually feels that it's liberating, finally being able to let everyone know about that. That's truly remarkable, Katie. Hey, let me see if I can do it now. Hey, everyone. I just want to come out and let everyone know that I have a beard and enjoy coffee. Yeah, you see what I did there was I revealed something that anybody who's even remotely familiar with me already knows. Yeah, so that's kind of how we feel, Katie, because anyone that's ever seen you report on anything as simple as what you had for breakfast kind of got tipped off to the fact that you might be just a little bit to the left of Karl Marx.
Why did you start journaling?
One of the very first kill capture missions, we do a dynamic entry of a house. As we're approaching the front door, the military-aged man is standing there. There is an AK. From the right-hand side of the door, we could see the gun and we could see the guy. From the left-hand side of the door, you could only see the guy, but you couldn't see the gun. Al and the translator, they're yelling to this guy to get on the ground, and the guy goes to grab the gun, and the right stack shoots him. He literally falls on top of the gun. He has a stack of green tip rounds. So a 15-6 investigation is where the Army goes into fact-finding about information of possible criminal activity for UCMJ action. We have a guy on a target that dies on a gun, and this initiated an investigation. So I started journaling from that night forward. Al was actually pulled off of the assault team because of that shooting.
That's your first deployment?
That was my first weapon from select to fire and press the trigger.
Really?
First time. Right there. And initiated a 15-6 investigation.
So you pulled the trigger?
That whole right side of the stack did.
A buddy of mine that I went to high school with and all through the war with was transferred into the headquarters company, and he contacted me, didn't get any beer ration. Could I help him? I said, sure, I'll call down to the guardhouse. We got a lot of Japanese beer out back, so help yourself. That was the end of it, I thought. But then I got a call from our provost marshal that Colonel had them out for inspection on Saturday morning, and they all showed up a little inebriated. And he asked where they got this beer. I gave it to him. So I got court-martialed. So I lost the stripes I had. Oh, no. But I said, as long as it doesn't hold me up from going home, I don't care. So I went in the Army as a private and exited the Army as a private.
And that was the Patriotic Shorts. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, a little motivation.
Conflict is an inevitable part of human interaction. Whether it's a disagreement in the workplace, a heated argument with a loved one, or a contentious debate online, we've all found ourselves on the brink of explosion at some point. However, what if there were a way to navigate conflict without resorting to fists, figuratively or literally? Enter the ancient Stoics, masters of emotional control and reason, who offer incredible strategies for facing adversaries with grace and poise. In this guide, we will explore 8 important lessons drawn from the wisdom of great Stoic thinkers like Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius. These Stoic-inspired techniques may require more patience and effort than throwing punches, but the rewards, inner peace, long-lasting solutions, and potentially transformed relationships are well worth it. Lesson 1. Delve into the depths of your adversary. Imagine standing at the edge of a furious river, its rapids foaming and churning with rage. Instead of diving headfirst into conflict, a prudent Stoic would pause, focusing their gaze on the invisible depths below the surface. Similarly,
Entering your opponent's mind is the crux of the first Stoic tactic. By delving beneath the surface, beyond the apparent issues, you gain a deeper understanding of their motives, fears, and desires. Through empathy and introspection, conflicts can transform from raging rivers to calm streams, ripe with potential for resolution. Lesson 2. Choose your battles wisely. Disagreements are plentiful in life, but not all are worth engaging in. Stoics advise us to pick our battles carefully, evaluating each terrain before leaping into the fray. By pausing to consider the importance of the conflict and its potential impact on our well-being, we conserve our energy for battles that truly matter. Remember, the purest form of strength is often knowing when to walk away. Lesson 3. Speak with calm and clarity. In the heat of conflict, it's easy to let emotions dictate our words. However, Stoicism teaches us to communicate with calmness and clarity. By actively listening, respecting emotions, and speaking firmly but calmly, we foster an environment conducive to understanding and resolution. The goal is not to win the argument, but to find cooperative solutions that benefit both parties. Lesson 4. Seek the shared path. Conflict often gives the illusion of irreconcilable differences, but Stoicism encourages us to seek common ground. By transcending individual viewpoints and focusing on shared values and objectives, we pave the way for cooperation and compromise. Remember, those who ascend together, guided by shared ideals, will reach the heights of understanding. Lesson 5. Appeal to their inner value. Rather than attacking your opponent's character, appeal to their inner ideals. By understanding and respecting their values, you can present your case in a way that resonates with their beliefs. This approach fosters mutual respect and understanding, leading to more sincere agreements rooted in shared principles. Lesson 6. Using humor wisely in conflict resolution. Laughter has the power to reduce tension and foster openness in communication. However, humor must be used with caution, avoiding subjects that may offend or belittle. A well-timed joke or playful remark can serve as a pressure release valve, creating space for understanding to flourish. Lesson 7. Growth from ashes of conflict. Conflict, viewed through the lens of Stoicism, becomes an opportunity for personal growth. By adopting a learning attitude, introspecting on our actions, and seeking guidance from mentors, we transform disagreement into a catalyst for self-improvement. Every conflict becomes a chance to emerge stronger, wiser, and more resilient. Lesson 8. Establish clear boundaries. Setting boundaries is essential for safeguarding our mental and emotional well-being. By clearly defining what we will and won't tolerate, we assert control over our lives and protect ourselves from negativity. Boundaries create a space for growth, respect, and tranquility, aligning with the Stoic goal of living with a cheerful heart and a grateful attitude. In conclusion, navigating conflict with Stoic wisdom is not about defeating your opponent, but about mastering your own mind and emotions.
And that was a little motivation. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now the daily laws for March the 19th.
March 19th. The deadening dynamic. Perhaps the greatest impediment to human creativity is the natural decay that sets in over time in any kind of medium or profession. In the sciences or in business,
A certain way of thinking or acting that once had success quickly becomes a paradigm, an established procedure. As the years go by, people forget the initial reason for this paradigm and simply follow a lifeless set of techniques. In the arts, someone establishes a style that is new and vibrant, speaking to the particular spirit of the times. It has an edge because it is so different. Soon imitators pop up everywhere. It becomes a fashion, something to conform to, even if the conformity appears to be rebellious and edgy. This can drag on for 10, 20 years. It eventually becomes a cliché, pure style without any real emotion or need. Nothing in culture escapes this deadening dynamic. This problem, however, sets up a tremendous opportunity for creative types. The process goes as follows. You begin by looking inward. You have something you want to express that is unique to yourself and related to your inclinations. You must be sure it is not something that is sparked by some trend or fashion, but that it comes from you and is real. Perhaps it is a sound you are not hearing in music, a type of story not being told, a type of book that does not fit into the usual tidy categories. Let the idea, the sound, the image, take root in you. Sensing the possibility of a new language or way of doing things, you must make the conscious decision to play against the very conventions that you find dead and want to get rid of. Daily law. People are dying for the new, for what expresses the spirit of the time in an original way. By creating something new, you will create your own audience and attain the ultimate position of power in culture. Mastery, Chapter 5. Awaken the dimensional mind, the creative active.
And that was the Daily Law for March the 19th from the book The Daily Laws by Robert Greene. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, Bishop Robert Barron.
The fruit of silence is prayer. The fruit of prayer is faith. The fruit of faith is love. The fruit of love is service. The fruit of service is peace. Peace, right? That's the thing we all want. Everybody in this world. That's what we all want. But you got to begin with silence. Look, I'm kind of a driven person. You got to accomplish something and do, go. And okay, that's good as far as it goes. But the real joy comes when we can sit quietly, silently, and savor. Do we take the time to do that? To waste time with God. I love that definition of prayer, by the way. How do we hear Him? By making silent our own voice, our own minds, our own worries, our own preoccupations. Silence them. And what rises in our heart is the voice of the Lord.
And that was Bishop Robert Barron. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now the Ayn Rand thought of the day. Quote, the exponents of modern movements do not seek to convert you to their values. They haven't any. But to destroy yours. Nihilism and destruction are almost explicit goals of today's trends. And the horror is that these trends move on unopposed. What is the solution and the antidote? Its name is objectivism. Unquote. And that was the Ayn Rand thought of the day. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now we'll pick up where we left off with the 33 strategies of war.
A peace that was to last nearly 4 years. Interpretation. Napoleon's victory at Marengo might seem to have depended on a fair amount of luck and intuition, but that is not at all the case. Napoleon believed that a superior strategist could create his own luck through calculation, careful planning, and staying open to change in a dynamic situation. Instead of letting bad fortune face him down, Napoleon incorporated it into his plans. When he learned that Massena had been forced back to Genoa, he saw that the fight for the city would lock Melas into a static position, giving Napoleon time to move his men into place. When Moreau sent him a smaller division, Napoleon sent it through the Alps by a narrower, more obscure route, throwing more sand in the eyes of the Austrians, trying to figure out how many men he had available. When Massena unexpectedly surrendered, Napoleon realized that it would be easier now to bait Melas into attacking his divisions, particularly if he moved them closer. At Marengo itself, he knew all along that his first reinforcements would arrive sometime after 3 in the afternoon. The more disorderly the Austrian pursuit of the French, the more devastating the counterattack would be. Napoleon's power to adjust and maneuver on the run was based in his novel way of planning. First, he spent days studying maps and using them to make a detailed analysis. This was what told him, for example, that putting his army at Stradella would pose a dilemma for the Austrians and give him many choices of ways to destroy them. Then he calculated contingencies. If the enemy did X, how would he respond? If part Y of his plan misfired, how would he recover? The plan was so fluid and gave him so many options that he could adapt it infinitely to whatever situation developed. He had anticipated so many possible problems that he could come up with a rapid answer to any of them. His plan was a mix of detail and fluidity, and even when he made a mistake, as he did in the early part of the encounter at Marengo, his quick adjustments kept the Austrians from taking advantage of it. Before they'd figured out what to do, he was already somewhere else. His devastating freedom of maneuver cannot be separated from his methodical planning. Understand, in life, as in war, nothing ever happens just as you expect it to. People's responses are odd or surprising. Your staff commits outrageous acts of stupidity. On and on. If you meet the dynamic situations of life with plans that are rigid, if you think of only holding static positions, if you rely on technology to control any friction that comes your way, you are doomed. Events will change faster than you can adjust to them, and chaos will enter your system. In an increasingly complex world, Napoleon's way of planning and maneuvering is the only rational solution. You absorb as much information and as many details as possible. You analyze situations in depth, trying to imagine the enemy's responses and the accidents that might happen. You do not get lost in this maze of analysis, but rather use it to formulate a free-flowing plan with branches, one that puts you in positions with the possibility of maneuver. You keep things loose and adjustable. Any chaos that comes your way is channeled toward the enemy. In practicing this policy, you will come to understand Napoleon's dictum that luck is something you create. 2. As the Republicans prepared for their convention to pick a presidential candidate in 1936, they had reason to hope. The sitting president, the Democrat Franklin D. Roosevelt, was certainly popular, but America was still in the Depression. Unemployment was high, the budget deficit was growing, and many of Roosevelt's New Deal programs were mired in inefficiency. Most promising of all, many Americans had become disenchanted with Roosevelt as a person. In fact, they had even come to hate him, thinking him dictatorial, untrustworthy, a socialist at heart, perhaps even un-American. Roosevelt was vulnerable, and the Republicans were desperate to win the election. They decided to tone down their rhetoric and appeal to traditional American values. Claiming to support the spirit of the New Deal, but not the man behind it, they pledged to deliver the needed reforms more efficiently and fairly than Roosevelt had. Stressing party unity, they nominated Alf M. Landon, the governor of Kansas, as their presidential candidate. Landon was the perfect moderate. His speeches tended to be a little dull, but he seemed so solid, so middle class, a comfortable choice. and this was no time to be promoting a radical. He had supported much of the New Deal, but that was fine. The New Deal was popular. The Republicans nominated Landon because they thought he had the best chance to defeat Roosevelt, and that was all that mattered to them. During the nominating ceremony, the Republicans staged a Western pageant with cowboys, cowgirls, and covered wagons. In his acceptance speech, Landon did not talk about specific plans or policy, but about himself and his American values. Where Roosevelt was associated with unpleasant dramas, he would bring stability. It was a feel-good convention. The Republicans waited for Roosevelt to make his move. As expected, he played the part of the man above the fray, keeping his public appearances to a minimum and projecting a presidential image. He talked in vague generalities and struck an optimistic note. After the Democratic convention, he departed for a long vacation, leaving the field open to the Republicans, who were only too happy to fill the void. They sent Landon out on the campaign trail, where he made stump speeches about how he was the one to enact reforms in a measured, rational way. The contrast between Landon and Roosevelt was one of temperament and character, and it seemed to resonate. In the polls, Landon pulled into the lead. Sensing that the election would be close, and feeling that this was their great chance, the Republicans escalated their attacks, accusing Roosevelt of class warfare and painting a bleak picture of his next term.
And that was the next part of Chapter 20, Maneuver Them into Weakness, from the 33 Strategies of War by Robert Greene. Back in a minute. Thank you. If you are a Democrat, you should be voting Republican because the Republican Party is the true party of civil rights. It always has been. It was a party of civil rights in the Civil War, and right after the Civil War, it is the party that came up with the first three civil rights bills, all that were killed by Democrats, by the way. So it's the Republican Party that has always been about civil rights. So if you as a Democrat are interested in civil rights, you need to vote Republican and become a Republican. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now a little bit of Donald Trump.
In my short time in Washington, I've seen firsthand how the system is broken. A small group of failed voices who think they know everything and understand everyone want to tell everybody else how to live and what to do and how to think. But you aren't going to let other people tell you what you believe, especially when you know that you're right. You must go forth into the world and turn your hopes and dreams into action. America has always been the land of dreams because America is a nation of true believers. When the Pilgrims landed at Plymouth, they prayed. When the founders wrote the Declaration of Independence, they invoked our Creator 4 times. Because in America, we don't worship government, we worship God. Remember this, nothing worth doing ever came easy. Following your convictions means you must be willing to face criticism from those who lack the same courage to do what is right, and they know what is right, but they don't have the courage to take it and to do it. The more people tell you it's not possible, that it can't be done, the more you should be absolutely determined to prove them wrong. Treat the word impossible as nothing more than motivation. Relish the opportunity to be an outsider. Embrace that label. Being an outsider is fine. Embrace the label. Because it's the outsiders who change the world and who make a real and lasting difference. I've seen so many brilliant people. They gave up in life. They were totally brilliant. They were top of their class. They were the best students. They were the best of everything. They gave up. I've seen others who really didn't have that talent or that ability, and they're among the most successful people today in the world because they never quit and they never gave up. So just remember that. Never stop fighting for what you believe in and for the people who care about you. Carry yourself with dignity and pride. Demand the best from yourself and be totally unafraid to challenge entrenched interests and failed power structure.
Thank you. And now 3 minutes of Donald Trump.
So much of success is seeing yourself as victorious. You have to see yourself. You have to really believe in yourself. And sometimes it's hard. You know, you've had failures, you've had weaknesses, you've had other things. You have to see yourself as a one-man band. Don't rely too much on other people because they'll let you down. You have to see yourself as victorious. And to be a winner, you have to think like a winner. If you don't think like a winner, it's just never going to happen. So to every parent who dreams for their child, and every child who dreams for their future, I say these words to you tonight. I am with you. I will fight for you, and I will win for you. My pledge reads, I'm with you, the American people. I am your voice. To all Americans tonight, in all of our cities and in all of our towns, I make this promise. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. And we will make America great again. God bless you. Good night. I love you.
Look at that. The economy growing at a record 33.1%.
These numbers are absolutely remarkable.
Latinos and women saw the biggest decreases in unemployment rate.
Remember, all of the people telling you you can't have the country you want are the same people that wouldn't stand. I mean, they said Trump doesn't have a chance of being here tonight. Not a chance. The same people. Oh, we love defeating those people, don't we? Don't we love it?
I used to say, and in fact, I think I said in my first book that, and maybe this was foolish, but I really meant it, that someday I'd like to maybe lose everything for a period of time to see who's loyal and who's not loyal. And I found out a lot of things.
Did you find out who's loyal and not
I tell you
loyal?
what, and you can't guess it. You can't predict it. You think certain people will be loyal no matter what, and it turns out that they're not. And you just can't predict it. It's very difficult.
This is Ron, your host, the only true conservative in the United States today, bidding adios to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there, and reminding you that you are not neutral and that the government has no rights.